Okay, it's recording.
Erika, if Cherry can't get in, then I will do the roll call.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. I've unmuted myself.
Oh, we hear you. Very good.
Yep, you're good, Cherry. We're just letting everybody else in.
All right, I've let the first batch in. I'm going to start working the videos, but by all means, go ahead and start. You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, then I will call this meeting to order at 7:05. This is a public meeting, but it's a school board committee of the whole meeting, a working meeting, and we are going to jump right into it. Shawn, if you want to start us off with these policy reviews.
Erika, we should start by doing roll call, and I do have everyone's name here, so if it's okay, I'll just read them off.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Cherry, are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, so Erika Conner,
Here.
Mary Diamour,
Here.
Joel Frericks,
Here.
Andy Menke,
Here.
Art Schneider,
Here.
Craig Verts,
Here.
Jeff Vokel,
Here.
Jill Werner.
So Jill just texted me she is on and she can hear, but she cannot be heard, it sounds like, and she said she's not muted. So, but she'll stay on.
Okay, and then Cherry Winchowski.
Here. Are other people all in now? People who can they hear us now or?
Yes.
Yes.
So I have a few housekeeping items, if it would be okay, Erika, if I start with that, and then I'll get right into the policy review, if that's all right.
Sure.
So as Erika said, everyone, this is a committee of the whole meeting. And in the past, sometimes we've called these meetings board work sessions. It's just semantics. They're the same thing. They're both public meetings. And this meeting, you should know, was properly noticed. Please note that there will be no board action taken tonight. So again, this is a committee meeting. Absolutely no board action will be taken. It's not our regular monthly meeting. We will still have a monthly meeting, which is required by law. And that monthly meeting will be on August 17 or August 24. And to be clear, we will have citizens' comments at that meeting. So again, no citizens' comments tonight because this is a committee of the whole meeting or a board work session. But when we have our state mandated regular monthly meeting, we will have citizens' comments. And again, that will be probably on the 17th or the 24th. As there are no citizens' comments tonight, we do have our community members muted and the video is off for our guests. So community members, we will not be able to see you and you won't be able to speak at tonight's meeting, but you'll be able to see us and hear us. We also have the chat feature turned off tonight. At the last board meeting on July 27, we did discuss having our next board meeting tonight. However, as so often has happened since last March, the landscape has changed again, and the need for a committee meeting instead of a full board meeting was met. 3 major changes took place since we met and approved our reopening plan on July 27. First and foremost, the rate of increase of COVID-19 in Waukesha County has leveled off. We remain committed to our board-approved plan of 5 days a week, face-to-face instruction, and our virtual option. We haven't changed that. And you should know that at one time on July 27th, I was concerned about the rate of increase, but that's leveled off. Second, Governor Evers has issued his executive order regarding face coverings. We're all aware of that. And then third, other Waukesha County districts have backed away from their commitment to offer the same program options that we are. So that does make a difference in our planning as we move forward, and we'll explain that later tonight in this meeting. And finally, as allowed by law, the school board will be going into executive session tonight to review some staffing issues, administrative contracts, and legal counsel advice on abiding by the mask mandate. So after we're done with our board agenda items, we're going to all get off this Zoom call, and then board members are going to come back in via a different Zoom invite. And so as I texted board members today, you all have that Zoom invite. And if not, we're going to get that to you. Any questions on the process? Board members, any questions on the process that we're following tonight? Anything at all? Any questions? If not, let's get into the first item, and that's the policy review. So as my memo stated on board docs, we have had 2 recent requests from citizens asking that we place the Indian logo and nickname on the school board agenda. And not only have they asked that that item be placed on the board agenda, but they're looking for the board to vote to discontinue the use of both the Indian logo and the nickname. I want to make sure that you have reviewed our 2 policies that I included in the packet. That's 166 agenda and 167.3 public participation. So it's important to note that just because a citizen requests an item to be on an agenda doesn't mean that we have to place it on the agenda. We certainly can. Anyone can ask for that, and that's per board policy. However, to get an item on the agenda, it is up to the discretion of the school board president, which is obviously Erika, and the superintendent. So I have chosen, and Erika agrees, that we should not place that item on our next board agenda. We have enough on our plates at this moment without getting into the Indian nickname and logo issue. We need to get our school reopening procedures locked down and ready to go before we can dive into that issue. But also, it's important to note, and I included this in your packet also, that per 2013 Wisconsin Act 115, there is a pathway for residents to have a race-based nickname, logo, or mascot changed. And I've attached the Wisconsin Legislative Council Act memo, which explains that process in detail. So it's important to note again that the board, yes, you could make that decision. You could vote to keep it, you could vote to get rid of it. But there is another process, a petition process that residents can go through to have the same effect. Not going to get into that tonight. If a board member wants to bring that process up, we can discuss that in a future committee meeting. But again, we're not going to place it on the board agenda for August and probably not September. Any questions? Any questions on that? Okay, if not, let's go into the school reopening update. So as you know, and if you look on the agenda, the first item under the school reopening update, Governor Evers did issue his executive order regarding masks that went into effect on Saturday, August 1st. It expires on September 28th. It can be overturned. That mandate, that executive order can be overturned by the state legislature. And from my understanding, the state Senate seems to be willing to come back into session and vote on overturning that. But I don't know that the state assembly has the same desire at this time. And to be honest, I haven't really heard anything from the state assembly. I don't know if any board members have heard anything.
No.
Nope. Yeah, so I haven't heard. The other way that that order can be overturned is by a court of law. And again, I'm not aware of any legal challenges. There may very well be a legal challenge. I'm not aware of them at this time. But until one of those 2 things happens, either the state legislature steps in or a court of law steps in, it's my recommendation that we continue to abide by that order in our schools for all students, all staff, and all visitors. And I'll say that again. It is my recommendation that we follow the governor's executive order and we abide by that mask mandate in our schools for our students, our staff, and our visitors. As I shared with you in our memo, we really don't have a choice. Our liability carrier, M3 Insurance, has made it clear that we must follow the order. And as our legal counsel, Buell Vetter, has also weighed in and said we must abide by that mask mandate in our schools. Later tonight in the executive session, board members, I will share that legal opinion from Buell Vetter with you. Any questions on that right now, board members?
Shawn, for those that have a medical reason to not wear a mask, we do have an exemption form for that, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I shared that form with you. That was a rough, Andy, thanks for bringing that up because I do want to make that clear also. We are working on finalizing our mask exceptions document, and we should be able to share that with parents hopefully later this week. And again, I have that document closer to a final draft, and I can share that with the board in executive session, and that has been approved by our legal counsel. I want to make sure you're aware of that they helped us with that draft.
Thank you, Shawn.
So can you share what that might look like, how a parent might obtain that, what they do with that, or is that all coming out in communication in an email?
Yeah, so essentially there are really two different procedures. One, it's going to be a medical rationale, and so you're going to have documentation from your doctor, and we are asking that parents sign a waiver and that we will be able to speak to their doctor about that request. And again, I'm going to go into more detail with you guys in executive session because it is a legal process. And then also for students with special needs, Christine has a process that she is ready to share with you that we would go through with students with special needs. Does that answer your question, Erika?
Yeah, I think so. Is Christine talking about that now? I lost her on my screen. I don't know where she went. Or is that coming in executive session?
Executive session, she's here. But again, we're going to share this with the public as soon as we get our I's dotted, our T's crossed.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it's coming out because I know many people that are listening tonight. That's a big question that they have.
Yeah, and I get that. And I know there's some information that parents want before they make that decision on whether to go face-to-face or virtual. And we're trying to put this information together and get it out to parents as quickly as we can. But that is a challenge because obviously things change dramatically, as I just laid out for you. So because things are changing all the time, we have a little slower process than we would like. And so I want to talk about that timeline in a few minutes, but not quite yet.
So any other questions on just the Governor Evers executive order memo? If not, then the school reopening update.
Yep. And so again, when we last met on July 27, I was concerned about the rate of increase for spread of COVID in Waukesha County. And so at that time, I said we should probably meet in August to possibly delay the start of the school year or talk about options. But I am more comfortable today than I was back on July 27. Although there was a significant increase throughout the month of July, that rate of increase has slowed. The last 7 days, the average number of new positive cases per day in the county was 87.9. The previous 7 days, it was 88.1. So bottom line, the last 14 days, number of new cases, positive cases in Waukesha County is 88. So again, 88 for the last 14 days. When we talked in July on the 27th, it was over 100. So we are seeing a decline. The age group of 10 to 19, so age 10 to age 19, that's still a concern for us. That's a big chunk of our school age population, the kids that we're educating, basically 3rd, 4th grade, up obviously through a senior in high school. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with this and why it's a concern. From March to June 30, so March when COVID started and we shut down to June 30th, there were approximately 80 cases in Waukesha County. I'm talking about Waukesha County only. 80 cases for ages 10 to 19. From July 1st until yesterday, there were 500. That's a huge increase. That's a concern for us. As we try to bring in thousands of kids back into our schools, that's a concern. Does it mean that we are changing our plans? No, no, but we need to be cognizant of that age group. That 10 to 19, there has been a dramatic increase the last 5 weeks with COVID positive in Waukesha County.
Shawn, do you happen to have the number of, in those 500 cases, how many were hospitalized?
I do not. I am confident. I'm confident in saying that I'm sure it was very few. The Waukesha County
I can look it up if you
Department
don't have to.
dashboard, I don't think that they have the hospitalizations broken out by age group, but you can see that the hospitalization rate, emergency room rate visits, that's pretty low. And of course, the death rate's also low. It's not that we're so concerned that those kids will be negatively impacted, although some will, certainly some will, especially those with health concerns. It's that they're positive and they come to school and affect others, staff members or other kids that have some health concerns. Other questions? Yeah, I know a lot of people have been asking for metrics. You know, what are going to be, how are you going to make a decision if we start face-to-face full-time and we get a lot of positive cases, or we have a lot of kids in quarantine, we have a lot of staff out, we're not able to find enough staff to substitute those that are out. Those are all going to be factors. Waukesha County Health Department did tell us last week that they will not give us a number. So they're not going to say if you have 10% of your students are out or 15% of your students are out, you have to close. They're not going to do that. We are up to our own. It's up to us on how to determine that. Waukesha County superintendents will meet again on Wednesday. We're trying to find some common ground on what our metrics should be, but we're not there yet. I did share a formula with you from the state of Minnesota. And I'm not saying that that is a formula that we should use. What I like about that formula, what I like about the state of Minnesota's process is that the state determined the formula. And then for every county, based upon the number of cases they have per 10,000, every school in the county is going to do the same thing. One of 5 options. One extreme would be all virtual. The other end of the spectrum is all face-to-face. And then they have 3 different variant options in between there. But based upon the number of cases that you have in your county, every school is the same in that county. And boy, we really could have used something like that for the state of Wisconsin. Would have saved us a lot of complications, but that's not to be. So we're going to have to determine our own metrics. Questions on that?
How do you feel about that metric? Do you feel that that's a fair metric?
I think it's a fair metric. I'd want to talk, again, if you take a look at the metric and then you take a look at the options that they have, I like the fact that it is uniform, and it just creates that uniformity that eliminates a lot of the stuff that with staffing that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, the complications that arise because of one district right next door, a couple districts right next door doing something completely different from you.
So with that metric, can you float in between? Like if 2 weeks you're in one spot and then there's an outbreak, you float to the other spot and then you float back? Is that would be how it worked?
I'd have to check to see how often they look at, how often they review it and make decisions. I don't know if it's once a month or once every 6 weeks. I can get back to you on that, Jerry.
Thank you.
The idea of floating between these possibilities seems not possible. It could have you changing multiple times throughout the year what you're doing based on how I'm looking at this calculation.
So that's a possibility for us, right?
Yes. But how many times are we going to like be willing to go, oh, we're all in. Oh, we're going to be virtual next month. And then we'll be back in the following. Like how many times do we really want to do that and play that game?
It depends upon how many teachers you have and how many students are sick, or, I mean, that's what it's based on.
And that's why.
Are you going to are you comfortable with the concept of going into virtual to pull back out into person and try to readjust our teaching and our staffing and everything, and then potentially again going back to virtual and potentially again pulling back out? I'm just saying the metric would have to be really good. A fluid metric, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I mean, this, granted, who knows how this year is going to work, but I would actually really have to think about this metric and play with it.
So again,
Shawn, we've had the flu bug hit before, and we've had a couple hundred, 400 or 500 kids and teachers out at one time. It's not like we haven't done this before, correct?
right. Yeah, in the past, Waukesha County has said, yeah, if you hit 20%, don't quote me on the 20%, but when you hit that magic number, then they get involved and they say, hey, Rolling Hills, you have to shut down for a day to deep clean or something like that. But they have said they won't do that this time, Craig.
Would you mind finding that percentage for us for the flu? I'm just curious. All right.
Noelle, do you happen to know?
You know what? I don't know that right now. I'm sorry.
We can get that for you.
You hear me?
So am I comfortable going in and out of models? Erika, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And you can ask Stephanie and some of other staff here that are with us tonight. They're not comfortable with that. It's whether or not we have to do that.
But if it sounds like Waukesha County isn't telling us an exact number, how we use the term, if we have to do that, depends on us and what metric we decide, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And staffing probably will be at the top of the list.
Sure.
So again, one of the nice things would have been that uniformity, but we don't have that. And so I wanted to talk about what we're seeing with the rest of Waukesha County right now, just so you are all aware. As you have heard me repeatedly say that the Waukesha County school districts were trying to do the same thing. And that solidarity has started to crumble, unfortunately. So it looks like Menominee Falls, New Berlin, Oconomowoc, and Pewaukee, those school districts will start the school year with a hybrid model. Waukesha and Elmbrook are undecided at this time. So Waukesha and Elmbrook have not had their board meetings where they have finalized. I think, and someone can help me out here, is Elmbrook tomorrow? Stephanie?
Yes.
Yep, so Elmbrook's tomorrow and Waukesha is Wednesday. So in the next couple of days, we'll know what they're doing. And then as far as the 5-day face-to-face option, and then also offering a virtual option, Arrowhead, Kettle Moraine, Muskego, and Hamilton are joining us with that. And I do believe at least 3 of those are pretty firm in their commitment, just as we are. So I am confident we're not going to be the only ones. But as I have said repeatedly, how this harms us is we have a number of staff that do not live in Mukwonago, a number of teachers who live in other communities in Waukesha County, and they have children. And if, for example, the school district of Waukesha decides to go all virtual, then that puts our teaching staff who have children in Waukesha in a tough spot. So we already have had some staff request either a year leave of absence or 9 weeks of leave. And Susan's here, she can help me out here with the length of leave, because their sons or daughters, their school district are not attending school 5 days a week, face-to-face like ours are. They have some kind of virtual schooling or hybrid model. So that's the complication. And that's why we work so hard to try to keep it uniform throughout the county, but that's not working. Any question on other school districts' plans?
Shawn, I heard there's some pushback from the Oconomowoc parents. But obviously, is that, I heard they might go back to talk about to face-to-face 5 days. I heard that today. I don't know if that's, exactly 100% true, but that's what I heard today.
So next Waukesha County Superintendent's meeting is on Wednesday. I'll get an update then, but yes, they have received some pushback, Greg, yes. So whether or not their board decides, I thought I saw it was a 5-2 vote, but don't quote me on that. Other questions?
Have we talked to Arrowhead, Hamilton, Kettle Moraine, or Muskego about what metrics they might be using, seeing that there are other schools committed to going face-to-face?
So we talked last Wednesday, and that all that was discussed last Wednesday was this Minnesota model. And then repeatedly saying number of students absent, number of staff absent, the ability to fill those staff absences with substitutes. But as far as an actual metric, not yet. Other questions?
How is, and this may be on another part of this, but in the event something happens and have to move away from the face-to-face every day, I mean, where are we at in the planning process that we can shift into another mode relatively easy without having too many hiccups? And there'll be some, but where are we at with that process?
So we certainly are ready to switch to an all virtual mode. It won't be easy, but we can do that. And Stephanie can speak to the hybrid model that we would be taking a look at if we went down that road. So Stephanie, you just want to briefly update the board on what that hybrid looks like?
Sure. So we would be looking at a hybrid model that would have 2 cohorts, let's say a cohort A and a cohort B. Cohort A would be maybe A through L in the alphabet, and would attend Monday, Tuesday, and every other Wednesday face-to-face, and then be virtual on Thursday and Friday. Cohort B would attend every other Wednesday when A is not attending, and attend Thursday and Friday, and then be virtual on Monday and Tuesday. We would attempt to do letters of the alphabet. So if a family had, let's say, a sophomore and a 3rd grader, and both parents worked, that sophomore would be possibly with the siblings. So we'd work really hard to keep siblings together in that model. I have been in conversations with some of the principals regarding this. Can we make that model work? Yes. Will it take some time to go into that direction to make sure that our staff would be ready for that model? It would take a little bit of a shift to do that, where we'd feel comfortable instructionally making that shift, but we can definitely make that happen.
Okay.
Jeff, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we're able to, not knowing when or if that would ever happen. So, but that does help.
So we've seen around the country some other districts who have come back to school full-time face-to-face. They've had to close down because the number of students and staff that test positive or are close contacts. And so a lot of kids, staff are in quarantine. What vision if we're in that boat, and I'm certainly not saying we're going to be in that boat. Is it a possibility? Yes. So we would probably have to go virtual for a time being. And then when we come out of virtual, we may go to the hybrid model before going back to full-time face-to-face. That's how I see that working, just so you know, Erika, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. It just sounds very messy.
Yeah, this is probably a good time just to remind everybody this is going to be messy. We are making no promises that this is going to be clean. It is important that everybody understands that there is going to be some messiness if we are going to bring back 5,000 students and almost 700 staff. There are going to be some complications. There are going to be some hurdles that we have to get over. I'm not saying they're insurmountable, but it is going to be a bit messy. Other questions? Okay, then speaking of messy, so as you know, I've said repeatedly that we're committed to our 5-day face-to-face and virtual options. However, we do know that a number of parents are still seeking some more details. We are trying to get more information out to our parents about mask exemptions, quarantine procedures, and how long students have to stay home when they have symptoms that may or may not be COVID-19 related. We cannot wait much longer, though, to finalize our virtual school enrollment because we have to get that staffed. And as we move people from our staff, from our traditional schools into our virtual school, then we have to replace the staff in our traditional schools. So we don't have a lot of time, folks, before September 1st. So if we need to delay, if we need to extend the deadline for choosing virtual, I cannot promise you we'll start on September 1st. I can see why people want us to extend that virtual deadline. I completely get that. But then more than likely, we are looking at a September 8th start date. Or at the very least, some kind of blended model for that first week, the week of September 1st. So for example, at the high school, maybe freshmen attend September 1st, sophomores the 2nd, juniors the 3rd, seniors the 4th, something along that line. But we need to get that virtual enrollment finalized ASAP.
Okay, I would like the board to weigh in on this because I've gotten a few calls and a few emails about you need to extend it. We need more time. I think from what I'm hearing, I think everyone's expecting a clearer picture painted of what that's going to look like. They have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we have all of the answers that we would like to be able to give them to paint a very solid picture. So in my mind, I feel like we're up against the wire. We voted on the 27th to move forward in person 5 days a week wearing masks. and it's that or virtual, and we can't paint a much clearer picture than that. I mean, some things we talked about, school supplies, they're not going to be shared. Like little things like that, I think people are wanting to hear. I wish we could tell them more, but board, what are your thoughts in light of not having a clearer picture? Do you feel like we stick with tonight, midnight deadline, or extend and then possibly start school later?
I think one of the biggest challenges is the, when you start thinking about some of the electives, not knowing what choices I'll have. I mean, I know people that say, well, I'd probably do virtual, but I don't know what classes will be offered. So that's one of the things I hear a lot, is just not knowing, if I choose this, what can I do? And if I choose this, what can I do?
So we did this week, Joel, send out, or last week, I'm sorry, send out, try to give a more clear picture of some of that with the electives. I told you before, I will tell you again that the high school is a little bit trickier, just because we have such a great elective offering at our high school, and some of those are just really difficult to offer in a virtual setting because of the hands-on nature of them. So know that Ben has fielded well over 200 phone calls and emails almost on his own with parents. He's been on the phone nonstop with parents in the last week and kind of worked through individual questions that people have regarding that. And our plan is to start having our counselors reach out by the end of this week to start rescheduling students into the virtual world. But that is definitely a little bit trickier at the elementary and the high school level. Our middle school level, I think we're solid in that, and feel good that the elective offerings at the middle school will be very similar to what they are for our actual middle school. But it is more of a challenge, plain and simple, at the high school with the hands-on nature of so many of our courses in the CTE world.
Thanks, Stephanie.
But we have communicated, or have we not? I thought we did, or maybe I just knew it.
Yeah, we did send out.
Come in though, I'm saying, like, if you did have a hands-on elective, like let's say welding, you can come in for welding.
Absolutely.
That class and go, okay.
Yep, in fact, we just had a request today of a middle school parent saying, can my child come in for math? He's quite advanced in math, and I'm worried about that being virtual. Absolutely, that student can come in for math. So again, we're trying to work on an individual basis with parents for classes they really don't want to give up for the year.
From the people that I've heard, they really would like the information. If indeed we cannot give it to them now, which I believe to be the case, I know we're getting closer to having our virtual teachers picked, and we're getting closer to some of those the mitigation for the masks and things. But if we cannot give them the information they need to make an educated, or the choice that they need to make, then I really think that postponing it a bit would not be the worst thing in the world. Is it what we want to do? No, but it's either, you can't expect them to make a decision when we just keep saying, we'll have it by the end of the week, but you need your decision today. That is just how I see it. I don't know that that's the right thing, but Erika, you'd like it input. That is the input. I said we either have to give them the information they need or extend it for them. So if we can't physically do it because of teachers and such, I get that, but then there has to be some compromise or some flexibility. Now, I do know that they could sign up for the in face-to-face, and then next week when these things come out, they could switch them to virtual. So maybe that's the information we need to give them. If you are concerned about this or that, this is your choice, and then you will have the option to change it next week when you know what you need to know, and then still start on September 1st. But that's what okay, that's it.
Well, are we encouraging people to sign up for in-person now and telling them to change next week? I was under the impression we are not, because we do have to figure out staffing. Like, that's why there's a deadline.
So we're definitely not encouraging people. What we have said is, if you sign up for face-to-face and you start the school year and for whatever reason, things go poorly the first couple of weeks, or it could be the first 3 weeks, maybe there's some illness issues, it's easier to go from face-to-face to virtual as opposed to the opposite direction. Once you're in virtual, if you start for virtual, we're expecting that you stay in for a trimester at the elementary level and for a semester at the secondary level.
Would we realistically, by delaying a week, for example, would that actually make a huge difference from our end as far as what we're able to do from a staffing and scheduling and all that standpoint? I mean, would that make, I mean, can that 1 week make that big a difference?
So the one week can make a big difference in the mask exemptions. We can certainly get that information. I think, and Noel can confirm this, I think we'll have more information on the quarantine procedures. In 1 week, I do not believe that we will have the guidance from the Department of Health Services at the state level and the county to tell us how this whole system is going to work when your son or daughter has a couple of symptoms, such as a runny nose and a sore throat, which you know to be allergies, but could also be COVID. That is a complication that we don't have an answer for yet. And I know that's what a lot of people are upset about. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. They haven't given it to us.
So with that being said, Shawn, if we keep the deadline tonight and we move forward with our plans as we laid them out from the 27th, in the event that these directions come from the health department a week from now, and as you said earlier, parents want to go from face-to-face to virtual, it is easier to do that. My question for Stephanie is, how many do we have signed up for virtual learning as of today?
Right before this meeting, we ran the numbers and we're at 487.
Okay. So with those 487, that sounds like a solid commitment from, parents that, they're committed to the virtual component of it. And there's probably not a lot of stragglers out there, that are committed either way. They've made their decision. So Stephanie, if we shut it down tonight, as we planned, and then, parents came through and there were some one-offs, would that be a big crimp in the plans?
One-offs, no. My concern would be if at some point we had, 50 parents that put it off and then made the decision as they're hearing things, oh, I really want to go virtual. And if those 50 landed in certain subject areas, it could mean, needing to staff another teacher or something like that. But in general, with little movement, we'll be fine.
Thank
How
you,
many
Stephanie.
families are in limbo?
That's been really hard to judge. So we had about 100 enroll so far today. We have a lot that are saying that they were waiting for even this tonight to register. I think we could see 50 to 100 more still scheduling tonight, but maybe I'm off on that. It's been a little bit hard to judge, but we've had quite a few register in the last couple of days.
So 487 is about 10%, a little less than 10% of our student population. When we went into this, we thought maybe as many as 15% might go the virtual option. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, Stephanie. I thought that was a number that we had floated out there that we might hit that mark. So
based on the parent survey, it seems like we have less than we anticipated, correct?
Well, when we did the parent survey originally, we figured about 250 that were already saying back then we would choose a virtual school. There was another, I want to say 12 to 14% at that time that had said we don't know what we would do. So
Stephanie's correct on the data. We had about 5% that said yes, and then between about 12 and 15% that said maybe. But you got to keep in mind that was also in early June.
So I don't feel as though I'm kind of hearing a consensus about extending it or not. Mary?
I think, are you going to be able to get more information than we have today out to the parents in the next week? I mean, we've pretty much given them everything we can. It's a moving object. We have to kind of go with the flow, and you can only give them so much information. And quite frankly, if you're not secure with the information, you're just keeping your kid at home and doing online. Either you're going to do it, you're going to send them because they want to go, or because you feel it's safe, or you need to decide to keep them home. And
I would also have to
first
say,
semester.
I would also have to say that Ben, who's like I said, been speaking to a bulk of the parents, and then Christine, who's been speaking to quite a few special ed teachers, that as we hear the same questions come in, and again, we have been able to answer those questions or try to get those answers out.
Mm-hmm. But now is there going to be so much more information in the next week that people are going to be able to decide one way or the other? I mean,
Not regarding our virtual school setting, for sure, no.
But I think what people are looking for that information regarding what it looks like in school. So I think that's maybe the more important question, like how much more of that might we learn in the next week? Which I know is hard to say.
Is there any advantage, Shawn, to putting it off a week? I mean, in your perfect world, you want us to think that delaying it a week, the start of school, makes it easier for our staff to get everything in line, or we're all set as much as we're going to be keeping the start date where it is?
So if we close the virtual school, if we keep that deadline, I know it's tonight, but let's just say we extend it another day, we're going to work on our staffing for virtual and for our face-to-face, and we're confident we can get most of that done before September 1st. But if we delay the enrollment deadline for virtual school another week, then I don't see us being able to get our teaching staff hired and in place in time for September 1st. And Stephanie, Ben, Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, is that our major concern?
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Let's get these kids in school or learning. That's my opinion. Let's go September 1st.
I would agree.
Skylar's ready.
Yeah, right on.
They get them ready all summer, so.
Yeah, the kids are ready. There's no
I want to
doubt.
go back.
Yes.
They've had enough.
So I'm hearing from 3, don't extend the deadline. Let's keep the September 1st. Does that mean
Well,
you guys want it done tonight, midnight? Do you want to give them till tomorrow at noon?
I think tomorrow is fair, my opinion.
I agree.
I do too, because I understand we had an issue technologically. Is that true or not?
I think that was just with students you're thinking of Infinite Campus because they were trying to get in to see their schedules today, which are not yet out. But as a parent, I've been able to get in and register and do everything that I needed to do for Infinite Campus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Erika,
we haven't had anybody call with concerns that they haven't been able to do the portal update.
No, we did get one email. I think Art was included on that email. We did get an email from a parent who said she couldn't get in. We'll get that corrected. Obviously, if it's more widespread than 1 or 2, then we're going to have to. We'll get that addressed. But I'm hearing that we should stick with what we had determined previously.
With the noon deadline tomorrow.
Can we give them till noon tomorrow? Let them sleep on it tonight?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yep.
Is everybody in favor with that? Jeff, Joel,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Cherry?
Good.
I don't know if Jill is still on here or not, but yeah, let's at least do noon tomorrow, but keep September 1st.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what's next. I think that that Tom, are you ready to talk a little bit about support staff? It seems like this is a good time to discuss that.
Yeah.
Just the vacancy rate.
So I gave you guys an update at the end of July about our support staff vacancies, just to keep you posted where those things stand. And at that time, I had said that we had 2 positions that were unfilled at that time. Since then, as of August 6th, that went up 25%, we're up to 40 vacancies. When I wrote that memo last week on August 6th, we've had more people resign since then. We clearly have a problem and the issue with just the environment that we find ourselves in right now. A lot of people are just concerned about their health and coming back to work, and that situation varies based on someone's health status or their age. And the reality is we find ourselves with a big volume of support staff positions that we need filled. So the need has continued to grow, and I suspect that it will continue to do so between now and September 1.
Tom, I thought we gave you the go ahead to get the staff filled and get the spots filled, correct?
That hasn't stopped existing staff to say I'm out. You know,
Yep.
that creates one. It doesn't cure all.
Understood.
Tom, what positions are you looking for?
Essentially all, Andy, mostly instructional assistants. We have some buildings and grounds. Let me take a look at this memo here so I can speak definitively here now. We have 6 positions in buildings and grounds, 6 in food service, 23 instructional assistants, and 5 office staff members. I do want to say our food service positions, we have more than that. That's our, in a normal school year, snapshot of existing support staff from last year moving into this year. We are opening up our operations in terms of food service. We're extending our meal service windows to do what we have to do in keeping a safe environment for serving food and keeping everybody socially distanced. We've posted about 10 more positions between buildings and grounds and food service to accommodate our new model of food service and our new needs with buildings and grounds. So 40 positions are vacant from our normal workforce. We have 10 additional positions that are new positions that we're creating for this year to deliver our new service models.
Thank you, Tom.
Is it a possibility that we will not have enough people and we will not be able to open school?
I won't comment on the teaching workforce side of it. I'll leave that to Stephanie and Susan and Shawn. But in terms of support staff, I do have a concern that we will be light in the numbers we want to have. I do plan on the Finance and Facility Committee next week, Monday, when we meet, to repropose our support staff wage increases, and then to have the full board take action on that on August 24th, if we still plan on meeting on those dates. So I bring this information because the urgency has been created, and I will bring a number of funding methodologies, how we can accomplish this, because I do think our support staff wage increases are overdue. We all know that, we all agree to it. And while I might have some uncertainties about future years funding, we got to attack this year full steam ahead and take this 1 year at a time. I can't worry 2 and 3 years down the road and let that paralyze us right now.
Looking at the information that you included in our packet as far as vacancies are concerned, of the 40 that you show listed here, over half of them are instructional assistants. How does that affect the actual teaching of coursework and that kind of thing? Is there a concern that that's going to be making things even more difficult?
Undoubtedly, especially with the instructional assistants. Those are, our support staff members do a wide variety of jobs, but the instructional assistants are almost purely academic in their focus. So when students in special education need that attention, we might be light in our ability to service them. Same thing with kindergarten aides. We had a number of those resign here, and you know, those little fellas and young ladies, they need some help as they start their first year of school. And I'm going to have one of those. And I know how much trouble he's going to be for the poor section teacher that gets Jace Karthausser. So
Chip off the old block, is that what we're talking about?
yeah, this kid's problem. So when those aides are out, it's difficult. It's going to put a lot more stress back onto the teacher.
So have we offered, I know a lot of those aides were not full-time. I mean, are we obviously asking anybody that wants to work longer or more hours? That would be a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, I think the situation is that we have most of these people where we need them 8 to 2 o'clock. It's not we can't give somebody 12 hours of work in a day when the school day is only 7 to 8 hours long.
So they're all okay.
Yeah, they're most all part-time.
Some were not full-time.
Our benefit eligible positions, we have good retention there. Our benefits package is strong and we don't have a lot of turnover with those positions. It's our part-time positions that are unbenefited that are problematic and high turnover.
So to our captive audience, we should say, hey, those of you listening, if you know anybody, we need people, apply.
Yes, that would be good.
And Tom, where do we find those applications? That's on our website, right?
Yeah, you can find all that on our website, correct.
We also have a lot of things on Indeed as well.
Yes, thanks, Andy. Our buildings and grounds positions, you can find those on Indeed.
Any questions for Tom, anybody?
Is it feasible or possible, if necessary, to make some of those part-time positions into some that have benefits in order to have retention? Or is that not an option for us?
Cherry, given our funding, our per student funding being the lowest in the state, it's simply not an option. Our costs would blow up exponentially. And from a sustainability, everything we talk about, everything I talk about, I'm not going to recommend something that's unsustainable. That's my job, financially speaking, is to put us on the best financial course possible. Expanding benefits would certainly help the cause. At $9,700 in funding per student, we can't make that happen. Other Waukesha County school districts that are $12,000 in funding per student, they have almost all their instructional assistants in some districts benefited with no issues then, no turnover issues. I know those of you that
I said that out loud, Tom, so that the people who are listening to us can hear what you just said, not because I don't understand.
I got you, Cherry. Good question. I appreciate it. I'll try to have better news next time I talk to everybody.
So any other questions or concerns? Because if not, I think we're ready to go into executive session.
Is there someone who's going to be on the ball and make a social media post like ASAP, letting everybody know that they have until noon tomorrow? And I'm like, just like a graphic. Virtual enrollment extended tomorrow noon. Like it needs to go out and it needs to be clear.
I will post it for you, Erica. I can't promise you a graphic, but I'll definitely get it out there right now.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, can we get it in an email form too, so we make sure that it gets out to everybody? Because like in Erica's case, you know, there's some internet that's been knocked out and people may not have access to email, or I'm sorry, social media. So can we do an email as well?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get an email out tonight as well. Yes, if not tonight, certainly first thing tomorrow morning. But we'll try to get something out tonight.
We can. I'll tweet it out too.
Art has like all of Mukwonago following him, so if Art tweets it, we should be good.
We're good.
I have one more question. You guys had mentioned that there with these teachers that have kids in other districts and that. Do we have any idea the percentage or number of teachers we're looking at with that scenario, or is that just we don't know yet?
So we do have the breakdown of teachers and what communities they live in. We haven't broken down by by which teachers necessarily have kids in those districts, because we're not privy to that information for all of them. You know, they could be in a private school, they could open enroll to another district. So that we're not sure of yet, but we'll get as soon as Waukesha and Elmbrook decide what their options are, then we'll be able to move forward.
You can just
Okay,
have
board.
your child to work day, every day.
Say that again, Mary.
I said they can just bring your child to work day, every day.
Well, we certainly are looking at expanding daycare options. And so we'll work with Kids Connection and with the YMCA and other providers. If we see a lot of districts that are closing down or going all virtual, we need our teachers. Obviously, they're essential workers. We need them here. And so we'll be looking at expanding daycare options. And those would be available to all residents, not just our teachers.
But to be clear, not provided, like it's not something we are paying for our staff. It's that we're going to see if we can help facilitate the availability for additional care.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I don't want everybody leaving here thinking that we're providing that. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I was
And
gonna
for all
have
of
another kid. Well,
and for all of you out in the land that showed up as citizens, thank you.
Board members, any other questions about anything before we head into executive session?
So we do need a motion to go into executive session, then I'll do the roll call vote to go into executive
I'll
session.
make that motion to go into
Second.
session.
Okay, Erika,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes, sir.
Jeff.
Yes.
I know Jill can't join us for executive session, but Cherry.
Yes.
Okay, so we're in executive session, so that will end the public portion of our meeting tonight. As Andy said, we want to thank everyone for joining us. So Ben's going to end the meeting, and then board members, you're going to join the Zoom meeting for executive session with the other Zoom invite that we sent you today.
Right. Sounds good. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.